did. Probably I didn't save it. Okay, so let's assume that this is a character that I have. You can find this character in the example package that I give you. It's called Dude. If you go to the Dude, basically this is an animation clip. It's called animation folder. If you go to Dude avatar, you will find a Dude clip, and then you click it and drag it onto the object, and this will quickly do. For example, here, let me delete it first. Okay, if you click it, drag it over here, basically it will create the Dude right over here. Okay, now this guy is not doing anything. So to make this character to move, you will basically create a motion graph. Okay, you can create a motion graph by create animator controller. They call it animation controller, but I call it a motion graph. So if you click this, this will basically create a Dude controller that looks like this, and then you can assign this Dude controller to the Dude, pretty much like how we did this for the script. Okay. Now, if you click the Dude controller, you will see that basically this is a graph. Now, right now it's empty. It only has a single node called AnyState. Okay. So if you want to make some interesting animation, what you can do is you can go to the animating, okay, over here, and let's say that I want to start from the idle motion. So you click the idle motion, you expand it, and underneath it, you will see there's two clips. One is called idle, one is called idle shot. So the idle shot just means it's a relatively short idle one. So if you click the idle, you click and drag it, this will create you an idle state. This is in orange color because this is a default state. If you start the game, this is where the animation will start from. Okay? Now if I start the game, he is going to do some idle motion. Okay? Very simple. He just coming back and forth like this. Now, how do I make this a little bit more interesting? We need to have additional motion grid. Okay? So go back to the motion graph. And if you go back to the clips, I'm going to select, let's say, running, for example. So I will expand the running tab. Okay? And I will select the run. The run basically means just run forward. The run left, run right basically just means that running, but also going left and right. So if I go select the run, and then I drag it, you can see that and now I have a new state called run. Okay? Now how do I let the animation knows that I should make a transition from idle to run? I will right click the idle, I will make transit, and then we'll link to it. Okay? Now when I do this, I create an edge right over here. Right? So this edge basically means that there's a transition from idle to run under the condition that exit time is equal to 0.98. That doesn't mean anything, so I'm just going to change it. Let's say speed is greater than 0.1. Okay, so basically means that if the speed is greater than 0.1, I'm going to make a transition from idle to run. Okay? Now, if that's the case, then basically this character will run if the speed is greater than the 0.1. But I should also make another transition from run to idle so that this guy can stop. So the same thing basically says that the speed is less than 0.1. Okay? Now, if I start the game right now, nothing should happen. The reason is because I didn't change the parameter. The speed, which is right over here, it's called a parameter. This is a parameter table. the speed is always 0 by default. Okay? You can change the default value, but basically that's what happens. You know, this guy is just standing right over here. If I change the parameter to 1, the default parameter to 1, then this guy is going to run all the way. I should put the camera into it. So this guy is going to run, but he's not going to stop because I have no control to it. So how do you achieve the control? Well, basically you want to modify this parameter. Okay? So here, to modify the parameter, I create a script called dude. Okay? And if I double click the script, okay, I will basically do a very basic thing that looks like this. So first, I will create a protected variable called animator. And I get animator over here. And then I will get component of the animator. And then I will get the key input. I will use this getAxis function to get the key input from the keyboard. Okay, so there will be two inputs. One is horizontal keyboard motion, one is vertical keyboard motion. So I will calculate the speed based on the sum of the square, and then I will set the value of the speed to this. So basically, if the user press the forward button, or if the user press W, this guy is going to run forward. So now if I go back to the game, so I modify, let's change it back to 0, and assign the dude to the game object. If I press forward, he's going to run. Okay? And if I release my button, he stops. And if I press again, he runs, and then release the button, he stops. Okay? Now, this is not very interesting because you only have this running forward motion. In reality, you want to have a very smooth transition between running forward, running left, running right. Right? You don't want to suddenly run forward, suddenly change to run left, or suddenly change to run right. So therefore, you want to have some smooth blending between running forward, running left, and running right. So to do that, you're going to use something called a blend tree under the motion graph. When you do the blend tree, you do not specify a single motion to be a state, but instead you combine multiple motions together to a blend tree, and then you create this whole combined mixture to be a state. Okay? Now I will leave this to you guys to figure this out. You can talk to me after class if you find some difficulty.